What does it feel like to stand at the edge of space, look down, and leap? No jet, no wings, just a man, a balloon, and a free fall that could rewrite history or end in seconds. This is the story of Felix Baumgartner, the daredevil who fell faster than sound and survived to tell the world. But the jump was only part of his saga. What fuels a man to chase such insane risks? How does a hero's spotlight cast such dark shadows? And what happens when even the sky can't hold you forever? Let's plunge into the fearless life, fall, and legacy of the man who defied gravity itself. Born on April 20th, 1969 in Salzburg, Austria, Felix Baumgartner entered a world of postcard-perfect mountains and the gentle hum of a city steeped in Mozart's melodies. But even as a child, Felix was wired for something louder, something wilder. Raised in a modest household, he was the kid who climbed trees higher than anyone dared, who raced bikes down hills with reckless abandon, his eyes always fixed on the horizon. The Alps looming over Salzburg weren't just scenery, they were a challenge, whispering to a boy who felt the pull of the sky before he could name it. By his early teens, Felix was sketching parachutes and planes, obsessed with flight in a way that went beyond daydreams. His parents, hardworking and grounded, couldn't quite understand their son's hunger for heights, but they saw his spark. At 16, he took his first skydive, and the moment his feet left the plane, something clicked. The rush of freefall wasn't just a thrill, it was a calling. Salzburg's quiet streets and classical heritage felt like a cage for a kid who craved the chaos of the air, setting the stage for a life that would defy every limit he encountered. Felix's early years weren't marked by privilege or prodigy, they were shaped by grit and an unshakable belief that he could bend the world to his will. Joining the Austrian military as a paratrooper gave him structure, but even then, he was plotting his escape from the ordinary. Every jump, every risk, was a step toward a future where he'd soar higher than anyone dared dream. A boy from a small city, destined to touch the stars. 7 years of relentless preparation boiled down to one heart-stopping moment. The Red Bull Stratos mission wasn't a reckless stunt. It was a high-stakes fusion of science and audacity, crafted to push the human body into uncharted territory. Felix Baumgartner, alongside a team of aerospace pioneers, ex-NASA scientists, and cutting-edge engineers, set out to answer a question: could a human survive a free fall from the edge of space, accelerating past the speed of sound? Success would etch his name in history. Failure would be a lesson written in catastrophe. On October 14, 2012, in the alien-haunted deserts of Roswell, New Mexico, Felix prepared for the impossible. His custom pressurized suit, built to endure -70-degree temperatures and the near vacuum of the stratosphere, was his only shield against embolism, where low pressure causes bodily fluids to boil, ending life in seconds. A helium balloon, stretching over 550 feet tall, carried his lightweight capsule upward for over 2 hours, past clouds, past commercial jets, into a realm where the air itself barely exists. At 128,100 feet, 24 miles above Earth, Felix reached the stratosphere's edge. The silence was deafening. Below, the planet glowed like a distant jewel. Above, the cosmos loomed. In mission control, engineers and scientists monitored every heartbeat, every breath, as 8.3 million viewers tuned in live on YouTube, holding their breath with the world. Felix ran his final checks, his gloved hands steady despite the stakes. The capsule hatch opened, revealing a void no human had ever faced like this. Standing on a platform the size of a skateboard, Felix was alone with the universe. "I'm going home now," he said, his voice calm but resolute, speaking not to the team below, but to the Earth itself. Then, with a single, deliberate step, he launched into the abyss, hurtling toward history at 843.6 miles per hour, faster than sound itself. Felix Baumgartner wasn't born to conquer the skies. He was forged by a restless hunger for the edge. Growing up in Salzburg, Austria, a city cradled by serene Alps and steeped in Mozart's legacy, young Felix had no interest in tranquility. By 16, he was skydiving, not for sport, but for the raw pulse of defying gravity. Each jump was a rebellion against the ordinary, a spark that would ignite a career no one could have predicted. His time as a paratrooper in the Austrian military sharpened his instincts, teaching him to master parachutes with surgical precision. But the structured world of military jumps felt like a cage. Felix craved chaos. the kind only base jumping could offer. A deadly art where you leap from buildings, antennas, spans, or cliffs, with seconds to deploy a parachute or face certain death. He dove into this underground scene where every jump was a high-stakes gamble against wind, timing, and nerve. In 1999, Felix cemented his name in the daredevil world by scaling Malaysia's Petronas Towers, then the tallest buildings on Earth. Evading guards under cover of night, he reached the pinnacle and leapt, his parachute snapping open just in time to carve his name into record books. Not content with heights, he sought extremes at both ends. He made the lowest base jump in history from Rio's Christ the Redeemer statue, a mere 95 feet, where a split-second delay meant smashing into stone. By 2007, his illegal jump from Taipei 101 pushed boundaries further, earning him a ban from Taiwan, but cementing his legend as a man who answered to no one, not even gravity. Then came 2003, when Felix redefined what a human could do. With a custom-built carbon fiber wing strapped to his back, he leapt from a plane at 30,000 feet above France, gliding across the English Channel like a human bird. No engine, no margin for error. Just skill and sheer will. Each stunt was more than a thrill. It was a manifesto, proving that limits were just challenges waiting to be shattered. When Felix Baumgartner landed in the New Mexico desert after his supersonic freefall, the world saw a hero who had outrun sound itself. But fame is a spotlight that burns as much as it illuminates. As millions celebrated his stratospheric triumph, Felix's voice began to reveal a man far less predictable than the daredevil who leapt from space. His boldness, once reserved for defying gravity, spilled into words that would divide his audience and tarnish his crown. In interviews, Felix didn't hold back. He called democracy a joke, and praised authoritarian regimes, arguing they brought order where freedom faltered. His vocal support for far-right figures, like Hungary's Viktor Orban, shocked fans who saw him as a symbol of universal courage. These weren't fleeting remarks. They were deliberate, repeated, and defiant, as if he relished the chaos of controversy as much as the rush of a jump. To some, he was still a rebel, unbound by convention. To others, he was a hero unraveling, his legacy fraying with every word. Trouble followed him to the ground. In 2010, a road rage incident saw Felix lash out, assaulting a truck driver and earning a €500 fine with a suspended sentence. The incident, buried under the hype of his upcoming space jump, hinted at a temper that simmered beneath his polished image. Then came financial scrutiny. Austrian authorities accused him of tax evasion, seizing assets, and pushing him to flee to Switzerland. The move wasn't just a retreat, it was a statement, as if Felix believed he could outrun earthly consequences as easily as he defied the sky. The man who once united the world in awe now split it in judgment. Supporters saw a free spirit refusing to bow to bureaucracy or public opinion. Critics saw arrogance, a daredevil whose ego had grown too heavy to stay aloft. Fame had given Felix a platform, but it was his choices that sent him crashing into a storm of his own making. On July 17, 2025, the skies that Felix Baumgartner had conquered countless times claimed him at last. At 56, he was paragliding over Porto Sant'Elpidio, a quiet coastal town on Italy's Adriatic shore, not for a world record or a global audience, but for the pure joy of flight. This was no death-defying stunt, just a man soaring as he always had, chasing the freedom that defined him. But in a cruel twist, a sudden medical emergency, suspected to be a cardiac arrest, struck mid-air, robbing him of control and sending his motorized paraglider into a fatal spiral. Witnesses described a haunting scene. A loud boom echoed as the paraglider spun like a top, plummeting toward a hotel's swimming pool. Felix crashed into a wooden structure nearby, the impact instantaneous and unforgiving. Despite frantic efforts by lifeguards and bystanders to revive him, he was gone before he hit the ground, his heart stilled in the element he loved most. A hotel employee, struck by debris, suffered minor neck injuries, a fleeting footnote in a tragedy that shook the world. Hours before, Felix had posted on Instagram, a windsock billowing under gray skies, captioned, "Too much wind." It was an eerie premonition from a man who lived by calculating risks, who once said he aborted missions when conditions weren't right. This time, the danger wasn't in the wind or the machine, but in a body that betrayed him. The daredevil who had outrun sound itself could not outrun fate. leaving behind a partner, Mihaela Radulescu, and a world still reeling from his audacity. Felix Baumgartner didn't just leap from the edge of space, he ignited a spark that still burns in the hearts of dreamers and doers. His 2012 Red Bull Stratos jump, watched live by 8.3 million people, wasn't merely a spectacle. It was a leap for science, proving the human body could withstand the brutal conditions of supersonic freefall. The data from his mission reshaped aerospace safety, informing protocols for future astronauts and high-altitude pilots. Beyond the numbers, Felix's audacity turned the impossible into a challenge, inspiring a generation of skydivers, engineers, and adventurers to look up and dare greatly. Yet his legacy is no simple triumph. The man who broke the sound barrier also broke with convention, his polarizing views casting a shadow over his heroics. His outspoken criticism of democracy and alignment with far-right politics alienated many who once cheered him, turning a universal icon into a divisive figure. Supporters saw him as a fearless truth-teller, unbound by societal norms, just as he was by gravity. Critics saw a man whose ego soared too high, his controversies grounding the admiration he'd earned. Felix's story became a paradox, a testament to human potential, tangled with human flaws. In the end, Felix Baumgartner's life was a free fall through extremes. He showed the world what courage could achieve, from crossing the English Channel with a carbon wing to plummeting from the stratosphere. But he also reminded us that heroes are human, capable of missteps as bold as their victories. His name endures not just in record books, but in the imaginations of those who dare to push beyond the horizon, forever chasing the sky he called home. Felix Baumgartner lived a life that roared louder than the sonic boom he created, a man who turned the sky into his canvas and fear into his fuel. From a restless kid in Salzburg to the first human to break the sound barrier in freefall, he showed us what it means to chase the impossible, even when the cost was controversy or catastrophe. His story isn't just about records, it's about the courage to step into the unknown, to fall, and to rise again, flaws and all. Now it's your turn to take a leap. What's the boldest dream you've ever chased? Drop it in the comments below, and let's spark a conversation about defying limits. If Felix's journey left you speechless, smash that like button to honor a man who lived louder than life. Subscribe and hit the bell for more stories of humans who dared to break the mold. And share this video to keep Felix's fearless spirit soaring.